let's move on and talk about that World Cup kiss, shall we? It is still dominating the news. It is turning into quite an extraordinary situation. The Spanish football chief, Luis Rubiales, is now facing an investigation into whether his actions amount to a sexual assault. This is after, of course, kissing player Jenni Hermoso. You can see it in the corner of the frame there, when their team won the tournament. And the latest this morning is that his mother has now gone on hunger strike in a church where he was raised. I mean, honestly, it's turning into slightly farcical territory. But I'm joined now by journalist Kathleen King, who's based in Spain, married to a Spaniard, has a Spanish daughter who plays football, so we want to hear from you. We also have ITV sports presenter Seema Jaswal. And as you sat down, you said, Ranveer, the last time we spoke, we were saying how amazing this great final and England being the semis was for women's football. And look, a few days later, you're back talking about a man's actions that has completely dominated any of the celebrations that these women deserve.
Well, it's hijacked their glory, hasn't it? I mean, 9 days ago, they won the Women's World Cup. And you've got to remember, in your career as a footballer, you live for these moments, to play in a World Cup, let alone go on to win it. So the fact that we've not been able to talk about how good they were at the tournament, their brilliant football, has been very, very sad for them. Yet, it's important that we do discuss this story.
Absolutely.
Very, very important indeed.
So yeah, fill us in on what's been said. Who has said what?
So, in a nutshell, Rubiales has denied that he said it was consensual. He said it was absolutely consensual and he believes he has done nothing wrong.
Yes, he calls it a false feminist.
Exactly.
And a witch hunt.
Exactly, and he's been saying that. But then Jenni Hermoso has said that it wasn't consensual. I mean, on an Instagram live video straight afterwards in the dressing room, she was asked by one of her teammates, you know, what happened there? And she said, I did not enjoy any moment of that. And her teammate said, well, what are you going to do about it? And she said, what can I do about it? So she completely said it was non-consensual. And now we're at the stage, well, a couple of days ago, 81 players that represent Spain and the coaching staff have said they will not represent Spain unless Rubiales is removed from his position. Global sporting icons from around the world have said, look, we are disgusted by it. It's become a global discussion and talking point. And now we've seen protests on the street in Spain, which I know we're going to hear about a little bit more later. And then as of yesterday, there was a 5-hour meeting within the Spanish FA. And that was between the regional presidents, and they have demanded that he resign.
And that's essentially their president, so they're calling for the head of their boss, aren't they, now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And they backed him before, because in his press conference, when he said, I will not resign, they applauded him and they backed him.
Well, this is it, and the women's national coach, George Wilder, who has now said, oh, no, I also think it was bad to do. Actually, he was applauding Luis Rubiales.
He was.
This guy here led them to the World Cup final and a win, and he's there applauding the man who's, you know, his own players are saying has done something that's reprehensible.
And has now done a U-turn.
Well.
So, and FIFA obviously had banned him for 90 days from any football-related activity. And now I'm reading reports this morning that there could be up to a 15-year ban. This hasn't been confirmed, but that could happen. And then, as you mentioned at the top of the show, his mum has decided to now go on a hunger strike and lock herself in a church in Spain. Right.
Let's go over to Spain, shall we, Seema? Thank you so much for that. I don't suppose you've ever covered a story quite like this in all your time.
I really haven't.
No. Now, Kathleen King is a journalist over in Spain, and I just want to read you a little bit of what the player Hermoso said in her statement on Instagram. She said that she felt vulnerable and a victim of an impulse-driven, sexist, out-of-place act. And how has that statement impacted women in Spain?
I think it's a statement that really reflects what a lot of women in Spain have probably gone through at some point in their lives. It was inappropriate, it crossed the line, and it was done on a world stage. And what was she going to do? He's holding her face with his hands and he pulls her towards him. She's not going to fight him on stage, but her statement is really spot on. And the fact that she's been so calm, so collected. The Spanish FA tried to release a statement where they made up words in her name, which she then had to deny, just shows the extent to which these men in this institution are the lengths they are going to keep their power and keep their impunity.
And Kathleen, can I just quote something else to you? Your acting deputy prime minister over there, a woman, she said that this reflects the worst of Spanish society, the structural machismo of the country, that sort of embedded Spanish male chauvinism. I wonder what you think about that. You are married to a Spanish man, and what did he think when he saw the kiss and all the fallout?
He was disgusted by the whole thing. Even before the kiss, as we were watching them come up on stage, the way he was hugging each one of the players, we already exchanged looks and we were like, that's not cool. That's really creepy. So we already thought that there was something deeply wrong about the way he was celebrating with them, especially when you take into account the fact that there was 15 Spanish players that didn't get to play in that World Cup because they had already made complaints about how they were being run, about the institution and about the leadership of their team and the management. But I do think it's also worth saying that Spain has done a lot of work over many years now to deal with this issue of male violence against women, of machista culture. There have been many big, important steps taken. This is yet another time when this is once again in the headlines and action needs to be taken, reflections need to be made, and there needs to be change because this is just clearly completely unacceptable.
It is a really extraordinary thing. And are you, in a way, not glad it's happened, but in a way it's exposed something that's underneath the skin of everything? And as she said in her own statement, this is just one thing that's happened, but the women's team in Spain have suffered lots and lots of small indignities on their journey to great success. And actually, they've had enough now, as have all women, I suspect, in lots of industries, but particularly there at the moment.
Absolutely. If this is what the Spanish team has managed to do in spite of the management of their team, imagine what they could do with their support. And it was interesting because when those 15 players were taken off the team or they refused to play, not enough coverage was made. We don't really know what happened, what the full extent of those complaints were. And now we want to know. We want to know how long they've been complaining, what their complaints were, how come Jorge Vilda, their coach, is still there? How was this allowed to happen?
Yeah.
So change does need to happen.
It's really fascinating.
They're brilliant.
Yeah, we watch on with great interest. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for joining us. And Seema, this is going to be a watershed moment, isn't it, in a word? It feels like it is.
It does,
women's
definitely.
sport.
It does. I mean, it's opened up an extremely important
Yeah.
conversation about sexism and what that means in sport and in society.
Yeah.
It's not just football's issue, it's society's issue, but it's a very important conversation, and I really hope that change happens and that these Spanish girls get to enjoy and celebrate their moments.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank
really
you.
nice to see you again,
Nice to see
Seema.
you.